Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakhantam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama.
Hare Krishna, Shri Balaji Prabhu. 100 pranams.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Is my audio clear, Prabhuji? Is it okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You were giving your darshan, suddenly it stopped.
No, I thought some bandwidth you might be.
No, I want to double check that. I think it's. Has it been posted live?
I
Not
can
it.
update.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No.
Hare Krishna, Sankashandra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, you can make me host. Hare Krishna.
Yes, I'll make you host, Prabhu. I'll make you host right away.
Prabhuji, I did the streaming already.
Oh, great.
Oh, Haribol. Okay. That's why I heard something I got, but I didn't know. It's not showing up sometimes. So I wasn't sure.
No, I did it, Prabhu. Just now I did it. Prabhuji, I'll have to drop off. I'm going to the doctor now. I'll drop
Absolutely
off.
fine. Take care, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Waiting the signal.
Thank you so much.
No, don't worry. Saturday is there. At least once ever I can do. Prabhu, we have 2 more minutes. I'll play Prabhupada Dhani for some time.
Yes. No problem, Prabhu.
Krishna.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, can we start?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Hare Krishna, devotees. Welcome to Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya on a Saturday morning. Today we'll be starting a new chapter from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 13, which is further talks between King Raghuna and Jadabharatha. And this will be the first verse. And today we have the privilege of having the association of His Grace, Sri Balaji Prabhu. Sri Balaji Prabhu, over to you.
Hare Krishna.
Let me know if I have to share or you'll be sharing, Prabhu.
You can share, Prabhuji. I have my notes on, so you can share, Prabhuji.
Sure, Prabhu. I'll do that. Thank you.
There's
Hare Krishna.
one or two shlokas also I will let you know that we can share.
Sure, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Nitai Guru Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura, Hari Bol. Om Vishnu Bhagavatam Sapri Shloka Abhay Charnar Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishnu Vedanta Swami Tinam Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachari Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatari Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tado Jayamtirai Nashtaprayasha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shlok Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtavi Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. Welcome. So we'll be reading today from Canto 5, Chapter 13. We'll be beginning the new chapter today and Shloka number 1. Prabhuji, you can share in screen. Yeah, thank you. Brahmana uvacha duratyaye atvanya jayani vishito rajastama sattva vibhakta karmadrik sa esha sa artho arthapara paribhraman bhavat vimyati na sharma vindati. Brahmana uvacha duratyaye atvanya jaya niveshito rajastama sattva vibhakta karmadrik sa esha sa artho arthapara paribhraman Bhavatavam yatina sharma vindati. Brahmana uvacha duratyaye atvanya jayani veshito rajas tamas sattva vibhakta karmadrik sa esha sa artho artha paribhraman bhavatavam yatina sharma vindati. Word to word translation. Brahmana uvacha, the Brahmana Jadabharat continued to speak. Duratyaye, which is very difficult to traverse. Adhvani, on the path of fruitive activities, performing actions in this life, creating a body in the next life by those actions, and in this way, continuously accepting birth and death. Ajaya, by Maya, the external energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Niveshitaha, caused to enter. Rajaha, Tama, Sattva, Vibhakta, Karmadrik. A conditioned soul who sees only immediately beneficial fruitive activities and their results, which are divided into 3 groups by the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Saha, he. Eshaha, this. Sa arthaha, the living entity falsely seeking sense gratification. Artha paraha, intent upon gaining wealth. Paribhraman, wandering all over. Bhava atavim, the forest known as Bhava, which means the repetition of birth and death. Yati, enters, na, not. Sharma, happiness. Vindati, obtains. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Jadabharata, who had fully realized Brahman, continued, My dear King Rahugana, the living entity wanders on the path of the material world, which is very difficult for him to traverse, and he accepts repeated birth and death. Being captivated by the material world under the influence of the 3 modes of material nature, Sattva-guna, Rajaguna, and Tamoguna, the living entity can see only the 3 fruits of activities under the spell of material nature. These fruits are auspicious, inauspicious, and mixed. He thus becomes attached to religion, economic development, sense gratification, and the monistic theory of liberation merging with the Supreme. He works very hard day and night, exactly like a merchant who enters the forest to acquire some articles to sell later for profit. However, he cannot really achieve happiness within this material world. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. One can very easily understand how difficult and insurmountable the path of sense gratification is. Not knowing what the path of sense gratification is, one becomes implicated in the repetition of birth and accepts different types of bodies again and again. Thus, one suffers in material existence. In this life, one may think that he is very happy being an American, Indian, Englishman, or German, but in the next life, one has to accept another body among 84 lakh species. The next body has to be immediately accepted according to karma. One will be forced to accept a certain type of body, and protesting will not help. That is the stringent law of nature. Due to the living entity's ignorance of his eternal blissful life, he becomes attracted to material activities under the spell of Maya in this world. He can never experience happiness, yet he works very hard to do so. This is called Maya. Om Jnana Gyananjana Shalakya Chakshuru Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Yandadati Swapadam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utaparatam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rup Sagana Raghunatham Tam Sarju Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Dev Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Anvitamscha Namah Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarine Namah Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Nami Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhina Gopesha Gopika Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavani Shri Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranavami Naripi Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Patidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Anantakoti Vaishnavibhyo Mukam Karoti Vacharam Yat Kripa Shri Guru Dina Paramananda Madhav Shri Chaitanya Hare Krishna. So welcome all for this wonderful Nityam Bhagavata sessions. Let me first of all thank His Grace Sankarshan Priya Prabhu who gave this service so that I can glorify Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna, his devotees, his pastimes, his qualities, so for my purification, and I could glorify and take this as a service. Please forgive me if I speak more than what my capacity is. You can point out, you can chastise me if you find any shortfalls, any wrong the renditions or narrations that I make, which is beyond the parampara. So today's shloka is the first shloka in the new chapter that we are starting. And this is basically almost we are coming to the conclusion of this wonderful pastime of Bharat Maharaj. And we have seen the different stages that Bharat Maharaj goes through. And at this point, Bharat Maharaj is instructing Maharaj Rahuguna in a wonderful, these instructions are very important for all of us, especially when he starts in the 10th chapter, where Jada Bharat Maharaj in the form of, in that appearance of Jada Bharat, takes up the seva of carrying the palanquin of Maharaj Rahuguna. And initially, Maharaj Rahuguna chastises him. And then after he realizes the real position of Bharat Maharaj, he starts inquiring with him. And this is actually how a devotee also should position ourselves. We interact with many senior devotees, senior spiritual masters, our spiritual masters, many sannyasis, our god brothers. So initially, yes, in those early days, we might not be able to relate to devotees and all those practices. And I kind of I can tell this from my experience also. I could not understand earlier. So now once we understand what we should do, that is what in the 10th chapter is explained. So in the 10th chapter, as soon as Maharaj Rahugana understands the real position of Bharat Maharaj, he starts inquiring with him. And in the 11th chapter, Bharat Maharaj answers all those inquiries or all those questions that Maharaj Ravuna had. And then instructs him on topics like how the material world is and how in that material world people are so absorbed that they cannot understand the tattva of Krishna consciousness. He also goes on to explain how the mind plays a very important role in causing us this entanglement, how the mind functions. And then he also explains how the conditioned souls are delivered from illusion by how? By conquering the mind. And how do you conquer the mind? Bharat Maharaj also explains by three things. One is neglecting it, attentiveness to the spiritual aspects, and service to Guru and Krishna. So these three very important aspects Bharat Maharaj explains to King Rahugana, that is by neglecting the mind, attentiveness to your duties and spiritual aspects, practices, and most important, service to Guru and Krishna. Okay. Then Maharaj Rahugana, then in the 12th chapter, thanks him that for the wonderful instructions that he has given, the enlightenment that he has given, and then further inquires. So basically, if you see this 10th, 11th, 12th, and for that matter, 13th also, it is very progressive. And that is how for us also as sadhakas, we have to be always progressive. We cannot be at one level. We have to understand tattva. We have to understand, go deep into it. We have to hear from realized souls. Then we have to contemplate on it and action on it. That is how the progressive nature should be. So if we see all these chapters, 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th, it is very progressive. And so what happens in 12th chapter, Maharaj Rahugana thanks Bharat Maharaj and then further inquiries. Now you see, it goes more deeper. Now Bharat Maharaj establishes the falsity of this, the duality or the duplicitous nature of this material world. So, and then he goes on to explain the Lord's qualities, the abode of the Lord, and then he establishes the supremacy of bhakti, which is the only truth. And once he does this in the 12th chapter during the end, before we begin 13th chapter, very interestingly, Bharat Maharaj reveals his past life to Maharaj Rahugana. We would have heard from wonderful devotees in these earlier classes how Bharat Maharaj reveals his past life to Maharaj Rahugana. And now, in this particular chapter, when we come to chapter 13, the first verse, this whole verse, when we read the translation, it's basically Bharat Maharaj gives an allegoric story. So, what is an allegory? Allegory is basically a story which is explained to someone to make a point, and to a certain extent also to help that person. So, this allegoric story which Bharat Maharaj explains here is about a merchant who is entering a forest in the form of entering a forest. This merchant is entering the forest to do what? He is going into the forest to search for some treasure or for some articles which he can sell to make some profit. And what is he going to do with the profit? Is obviously sense gratification. So after this first verse, you will see how the merchant. So this whole allegoric story is continued from chapter 1, I think till I think there are 16 or 21 verses are there in this particular chapter. So all the time, the Bharat Maharaj is explaining the different difficulties the merchant goes through. And in a sense, so this merchant basically, who is this merchant? This merchant is basically representing, since it's an allegoric story, so every aspect of that allegoric story should represent something, which is for us, for us to able to understand. Also, he is addressing Maharaj Rahugana. So the merchant is the conditioned soul. So merchant is basically the conditioned soul. And what is the forest that the merchant is entering? Is the material world, where he's going to perform material job. And now, what is he going? What is he going to do in the? What is he going to do in the forest? What is he gone in the forest for? To search for some articles where he can sell it for profit, basically for some sense gratification. Now, as you progress in this chapter, you will understand that though he has gone into the forest for sense gratification, he does not get it. Okay, what he gets in turn is suffering difficulties. So all these are recorded. So yeah, one other aspect I was hearing to a devotee as to how to understand this particular section of this particular pastime. So the devotee was telling that chapter 13 and chapter 14 should be read together. Chapter 13 to 14 is basically Bharat Maharaj giving this allegoric story to Maharaj Raghuna, and Shukdev Goswami in 14th chapter is giving equivalent explanation in 14th chapter to each shloka. So basically from shloka number 1 to 16 and shloka number 1 to 14 or 20 in chapter 14, Shukdev Goswami is explaining to Parikshit Maharaj how to understand this particular shloka or the allegoric story that Bharat Maharaj is narrating to Raghuna. And there, for shloka number 1, Parikshit Maharaj is explaining, Shukdev Goswami is explaining to Parikshit Maharaj how we have to understand this merchant is a conditioned soul. He's entering into the material world to do what? Sense gratification. Does he get it? No. But instead, what he gets is difficulties and troubles and sufferings, which he feels, though in between he might get some happiness. Some here and there, some happiness would be there, but eventually everything leads to suffering. Okay, so he's trying to explain in fact, Krishna has also sealed this particular material world. He's explained this material world in 2 words as Dukhalya Ashvata. Now, coming to this way of giving it some aspects of instructions in the form of allegoric story, we have also seen this in 4th canto. If anybody of you would recollect, Narad Muni was instructing Prachini Parishad, because he was also getting into this karmakandic ritualistic activities for his sense gratification. So to help him, Narad Muni gives this allegoric story of King Puranjana, who was also nothing but a conditioned soul. So and then he marries Puranjani, and then how all those he goes through troubles and tribulations. So that, I think that chapter was probably I think it was 5 chapters overall. But in this we have only 1 chapter. In the 2nd chapter is where Shukadeva Goswami is explaining how to understand the allegoric story in 14th chapter. Okay, so in this particular shloka, how Prabhupada translates, it is very clear that the merchant who enters the material world, or the conditions who enters the material world, is trapped. What you mean by suffering is basically goes for sense gratification, but eventually what happens is he gets trapped in the repeated cycle of birth and death, and he's captivated. How this happens is captivated by the 3 modes of material nature, namely sattva, rajas, and tamaguna. And what he gets, Prabhupada further translate that what he gets either auspiciousness, inauspiciousness, or mixed, or both. Now, because of that, what happens is the 4 purusharthas, Prabhupada very nicely explains in the translation. If you see, Prabhupada has mentioned that he thus becomes attached to religion, which is dharma, economic development, artha, sense gratification, kama, and the monistic theory of liberation, that is moksha. So what happens? The conditioned soul enters the material world to enjoy, and he gets entrapped captivated by the influence of the three modes of material nature, Sattva, Guna, and Rajas. And what he gets, the three fruits of these activities is mainly either auspiciousness, inauspiciousness, or a combination of both. And what happens because of that? He thus becomes attached to dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So essentially, Bharat Maharaj is explaining us that a conditioned soul will get attached, will get captivated by the three modes and gets attached to the four Purusharthas. So there is no end for suffering or satisfaction due to entanglement in the senses. So how does it get entangled in this? Only because of his this craving by his senses for the sense objects. So is there an end for suffering or satisfaction? No. And because he's entangled by this, by his senses to the sense objects. So primarily, I mean, I was just hearing different classes. So there were two aspects that that is reflected in this particular shloka. Is one is satisfaction, and second one is sense control. So our key aspects of discussion for today will be: one is satisfaction. How do we satisfy the Lord? And second one is how can one do sense control? Okay. So probably if we can share shloka number 4:31:19 probably. It's a very wonderful shloka, Canto 4, chapter 31, shloka number 19. So this is basically this shloka is where Narad Muni is instructing the prachetas. It's a very wonderful shloka. If you are able to see on the screen, 4:31:19. Yes, but Dayaya sarvabhuteshu santushtya yena kena va sarvendriyo pashantyacha tushyatayashu janardana. So Prabhupada translates that by showing mercy to all living entities, one, being satisfied somehow or other, second, and restricting the senses from sense enjoyment, one can very quickly satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Janardana. So there are three aspects which Narad Muni is actually instructing or telling the Prachetas that any devotee has to do three things to satisfy the Lord. Okay. One is by showing mercy to all living entities. Second is by being satisfied somehow or other. And third one is restricting the senses from sense enjoyment. Now, we will see in little detail in these three particular aspects or important instructions that Narad Muni is giving to the Prachetas. One is sense control. So this shloka helps us to understand how one can satisfy the Lord. And that is, so once we satisfy the Lord, only then we will be satisfied. Yeah. And also we have to be satisfied. And we'll come to that second aspect also. The first one is sense control. Now, if one has control over his senses, the Lord is definitely happy with such a devotee. We know if one is more engrossed in in our own sense gratification, Krishna reciprocates accordingly. So if we are satisfied with the sense gratification, Krishna will reciprocate. Some or the other, Krishna will definitely reciprocate. Okay. But the reciprocation will be that will be according to our surrender. Now, if we are more into sense gratification or not able to control our senses, there is a problem. The Lord will not be happy unless He is controlling our senses. So Srila Prabhupada gives only one way that one can control our senses is to train our senses. Now, we all know the senses are never satisfied. How many of us, will agree to this point that how many times our eyes have seen so many forms, but are the eyes satisfied that they don't have any hankering to see any other beautiful form? Okay. How many times our ears have heard so many types of different types of music, But are the ears satisfied? They still, they still hanker for more. Okay. How many tastes that our tongue has had? How many fragrances that our nose has had? How many times we have been touched or we have touched others by our skins? These are basically the sense organs, right? There is no way that all these senses are satisfied. How much ever these are how much ever these senses are engaged with the sense objects, because they can never be satisfied. So all these holes, what I mean is all these senses that we have, all these holes, till they are not filled by the whole Krishna, they will never be filled or satisfied. I'll give an example. In the Shastras, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, we have heard of Kolavicha Sridhar. Kolavicha Sridhar was a very poor Brahmin. When during the Mahaprakash Leela, when Mahaprabhu asked, "What do you want? I can give you anything that you want." What did Kolavicha Sridhar ask? He asked that, "My Lord, I want you to come as the little Nimai and fight with me for those banana leaves or the banana leaf product that he used to sell. Fight with me for that. That is what I want. I don't need anything else from you." So how much that is the the how do you get the pinnacle of sense control. Obviously, for us, and especially if I ask me talk about me, sense control is definitely a difficult task to do. But as devotees, we know that unless I control my senses, the Lord will not be satisfied. Unless I control my senses, I will not be able to focus on my sadhana. So what we have to do, we have to only, as Prabhupada says, we have to train our senses. We have to fill these holes of the senses by the whole Krishna, so that we can be satisfied. The second example is Sudama, the poor Brahmana who was, he was going through so much of difficulties, and on the request of his wife, he went to Krishna. Now we all know this pastime. He went to Krishna. Krishna welcomed him, and Krishna welcomed him in such a wonderful way, made him sit, and then inquired about him. Sudama did not utter a single word, for the purpose that he had come. But Krishna, who knows his devotees very well, externally and internally also, he gave whatever was, whatever Krishna felt to give. When Sudama returned, he got, even without asking, he got whatever best was Krishna felt, whatever best Krishna felt that he could be given. So this is what is our focus should be practicing our sadhana, at the same time training our senses. Okay, that is all we can do. Forget about the detachment. Try to get attached to Krishna. Okay, and best way we can do that is the example of Ambarish Maharaj. We all know the very famous shloka of which is in 9.4.18 till 20. All the three shlokas are together. Savay mana Krishna padara vindoyor vacham chi vaikunta gunan varnani. I not chant the shloka 9.4.18 to 20. So here Ambarish Maharaj gives us the wonderful way how we can engage, how we can train our senses to focus on Krishna. Okay. The translation that Srila Prabhupada wonderfully writes to this particular shloka, Savay Mana Krishna Padara Vindayor. Maharaj, I read the translation. Maharaj Ambarish always engaged his mind in meditating upon the lotus feet of Krishna. His words in describing the glories of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the Lord's temple, and his ears in hearing the words spoken by Krishna or about Krishna. He engaged his eyes in seeing the deity of Krishna, Krishna's temples, and Krishna's places like Mathura and Vrindavan. He engaged his sense of touch in touching the bodies of the Lord's devotees. He engaged his sense of smell in smelling the fragrance of Tulsi offered to the Lord. And he engaged his tongue in tasting the Lord's Prashant. He engaged his legs in walking to the holy places and temples of the Lord, his head in bowing down before the Lord, and all his desires. This is also very important. And all his desires in serving the Lord. 24 hours a day. It's not like 1 hour or 2 hours, 24 hours a day. We don't have a discount, we don't have a concession. Okay. Indeed, Maharaj Ambarish never desired anything for his own sense gratification. He engaged all his senses in devotional service, in various engagements related to the Lord. This is the way to increase attachment for the Lord and be completely free from all material desires. Srila Prabhupada has given all of these, has facilitated, has provided all the facilities to engage all our senses in this wonderful way. A temple itself can have all these aspects where we can engage wonderfully. And so that what we have to do, as I said earlier, what we have to do, we have to only engage our senses. We don't have to, and that is how we train our senses. Believe me, whenever we try to do any kind of devotional service, our mind will play a trick on us. Okay, yeah, through the senses. It will give you all kinds of distractions. But our job is to ensure that, with our intelligence, with our toned up knowledge, with our perfect knowledge from Srimad Bhagavatam, and with all these wonderful examples of the devotees that we have in Srimad Bhagavatam, just try to engage our senses and, redirect or divert it towards devotional service in various ways. There are multiple engagements that we can have. Okay, and Prabhupada writes in the translation, the last statement is very important. This is the way to increase attachment for the Lord and be completely free from all material desires. So what we have to do, first increase our attachment to the Lord, automatically we will be completely free from all desires. There is one more beautiful shloka in Srimad Bhagavatam. My dear devotees, you should really practice or try to memorize this shloka. It is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 6, text number 34. This particular shloka is a summum bonum. So this particular, I'll just give a quick background of this particular shloka. Narad Muni, when Vyasadeva was in a deep despondency, after writing all the Vedas and Purans. So who visits him is Narad Muni, his spiritual master. And Narad Muni, gives a lot of instructions and all those things. And then Narad Muni chants this particular shloka. It's Canto 1, Chapter 6, text number, shloka number 34, a wonderful shloka. Etadhya atura chittanam matra sparshe chayam bhava sindhu plavadrishto hari charya anuvarna. I just quickly speak about this shloka. So this particular shloka gives us the problem statement, gives us the reason for that problem, then gives us what will happen because of that problem, and then gives us the solution. Matra sparshe chayam bhuvu. Because of our senses, we get attached to all the sense objects, and what happens, we might end up in this bhava sindhu. And then there is only way, and the only way to come out of this bhava sindhu, where that boat, the only boat available is Hari Charya Anuvarnana. What does it mean is, Hari is Lord. Charya means, we all know this word, Dina Charya. Charya means activities. Okay, so activities of Hari. And then it says Anuvarnana. Anuvarnana means replicate what our seniors, the acharyas, the mahajanas, and the devotees of the Lord have done. So just replicate. So what they used to do, they used to always glorify the Lord, glorify the activities of the Lord, glorify the pastimes of the Lord. That is exactly what. That is the only job of a sadhaka, the only job of a practicing devotee. And Srila Prabhupada has so wonderfully facilitated all these things. So what we have to do to cross over this material world. Because we get entangled by the senses to the sense objects, what we have to only do is Hari, Charya, Anuvartana. That's all. So this was the first time how we can control our senses, okay, by directing or redirecting or bringing it back whenever it goes astray back to the service of the Lord. Okay. The second point in the shloka that we had seen in 431:19, okay, was about satisfaction. Okay. We also, as conditioned souls, we have to ensure that we are satisfied within ourselves with what we have. Then only we can satisfy others. Okay. Now, how? So just to understand how we can do that, Chanakya Pandit, in one of his, I think it's in chapter 7, shloka number 4, in his Chanakya Niti, he mentions very wonderfully three things what one has to be satisfied with, and three things what one has to never be satisfied. Okay, I will chant that particular shloka. This shloka says, "Santoshis strishu kartavyah swadare bhojane dhane trishu chaiva na kartavya adhyayane japa danyoha." So he says three things. One is three things which one should be satisfied with, that is food. For us, sadhaka, practice devotees, for us it is prasad. So we should be satisfied with what we have in terms of food. Second is wealth. We should be satisfied with the wealth that the Lord has provided us, what we have, based on our, our capacity and whatever Lord wants to give us. Third one is spouse. So food, wealth, and spouse, these are the three things one should be satisfied with. The three things which one should not be satisfied, that Chanakya Pandit says, is one is charity. Second is any spiritual activity. And third is our japa. Okay. So charity, one should not be, one should, based on obviously the capacity, just keep on giving charity. Then second one is our spiritual activity, our sadhana. Yeah. And third one is our japa. So sadhana, by sadhana, what I mean is our engagement, spiritual engagements. Never should be satisfied. We should, based on our capacity, do as much as possible. By this, automatically we will be satisfied and we will be able to satisfy Krishna, because we are doing all this, dovetailing our activities to engage in spiritual activities to serve Krishna and his devotees. So this is the second point, which about satisfaction. Third one, it says in the first line, it says Dayaya in 431:19, Daya Sarva Bhuteshu. So we should be compassionate to all other living entities. By how? By preaching Krishna consciousness. Charity starts at home always. So wherever possible, as much as possible. I'm also trying to practice. It's really difficult to practice Krishna consciousness, within our family, but charity starts at home. So what best what are the best place we have then to give compassion in the form of Krishna consciousness to our relatives or near and dear ones. Obviously for others also, as per our, whether we are in Bhakti Vriksha or other activities, so we can do that also. Now, the other aspect when we started this particular today's shloka, so one was about satisfying the Lord. The second one was sense control. For sadhakas, what more we have the scriptures with us, and what more we can have from what Rupa Goswami has given us in the form of nectar of instructions. There is wonderful shloka which we all know, we all are aware. Vacho vegam, manasak krodha vegam, jibha vegam, udarapastha vegam, etan vegam yo vishaheta dhiraha, sarvam apimam prithibim sa shishya. So, in the preface of Nectar of Instructions, if you open up the preface of Nectar of Instructions, Srila Prabhupada makes a very wonderful statement, a very amazing statement, and it's like a sutra that each one of us have to really, keep with us always. Prabhupada says, advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. I will just repeat that. Advancement of Krishna consciousness advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. So this is if you meditate and contemplate or dissect this particular statement that Srila Prabhupada has made, you will understand the gravity of this particular statement. Srila Prabhupada mentions about the attitude of the follower. Okay, and then this is in the preface of Nectar of Instructions, and from that point onwards, we have very wonderful instructions as to how a follower has to build this attitude. Very wonderful. So Prabhupada, Rupa Goswami mentions that Prabhupada mentioned that Rupa Goswami wants us to become Goswamis and not Godasas. Goswami, the meaning of Goswami is one who has controlled his senses, and not Godasa, who is a servant of the senses. So the text one, Vacho Vegam, Manasakrodha Vegam, this text gives us 6 ways in how we can protect ourselves by how we can control our senses. Okay, and the example also which we have already always heard is about the tortoise. How the tortoise, whenever there is a danger, withdraws his limbs inside. That way, as sadhaka, as practitioners, as devotees, I know many of you definitely are doing all this in a wonderful way. I'm talking about myself, where these particular 6 qualities, these particular 6 aspects of or instructions that Rupa Goswami is giving us, how we have to practice. So Vacho Vegam means the meaning of Vacho Vegam conveyed by Srila Rupa Goswami advocates the positive process of Krishna Katha. Basically, whenever we speak, it has to be in relation to Krishna. It has to be in relation to the scriptures that we are reading. Basically, engaging the speaking process in glorifying the Supreme Lord. Hari, Charya, Anuvaranam. The tongue can thus glorify the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord. So as whenever possible, as much as possible, at all given times, we have to. I know, being in this material world, being with all our duties and jobs and all other aspects, we have to sometimes indulge in other activities. But we can be part to it, but let's not be party to it. Okay. So with that, at least we can maintain a safe distance. Okay. So Vacho Vegam, by this we can, if we control the urge to speak, not to speak Prajalpa or any other Gramya Katha, okay, as Mahaprabhu also mentions, we can always replace that with Hari, Charya, Anubhav. Then Manasa Vegam. So the restlessness or fickleness of the mind, Mano Vega, is controlled when one can fix his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. Now I'm reading this. Basically, these are all lines from the first shloka. You can read this, the purport of first shloka and the Nectar of Instructions. I've just put 1 or 2 lines here. Manasa Vega, that is how we can control by fixing our mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. So whenever we all know, whenever we go to the temple to take the darshan of the Lord, first is we view the Lord from the lotus feet, and then view the Lord, then climb on, viewing the Lord. The third one is Krodha Vegam. Krodha, anger management definitely is a big topic itself. I'm also struggling with this particular anger aspect. Krodha, anger cannot be stopped, but it can be applied rightly. Yeah. Jivha Vegam. This is very much by always, better by having prashada. Okay. Udaropastha, the urges of the belly and the genitals can be controlled when not used unnecessarily. So the conclusion is that one who can control these 6 items, speech, mind, anger, tongue, belly, and genitals, is called to be a Goswami, Swami or Goswami. So just to summarize, in today's shloka, we saw how this whole chapter is going to be an allegoric story. It actually builds up in a very gross way. And if you want to understand better, each shloka, we can also read equivalent shlokas from 14th chapter. And in this allegoric story, Bharat Maharaj starts narrating about the story of the merchant who's entering a forest to gain some articles, to obviously to get some profit and sense and use that for sense gratification. And in this particular shloka, there are two aspects which came out. We saw was satisfaction and controlling the senses. So satisfaction, we saw the shloka 431-19, where we saw how we can control, how we can satisfy the Lord by three things, basically sense control, satisfying the Lord, satisfaction, and third one is compassion, by showing compassion. And the second aspect of sense control, we saw how Srila Rupa Goswami has very wonderfully given us this nectar of instructions, where even if we follow the first shloka itself is more than sufficient to control our senses. There are six qualities that we have to, as sadhakas, as practitioners, we have to develop. Yeah. So, yeah. Thank you so much. I think I will conclude with this. So, Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. That was a wonderful class. I kept writing. I couldn't stop. It was so nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was so nice. And you also summarized very well. Only a few aspects I just wanted to, add here was how you give a wonderful example in terms of how to actually train our senses and get Krishna's reciprocation. Is Kolavijay example, you took that wonderfully. He talked about Sudama Vipra, his story of how it was there. You also talked about Ambarish Maharaj's wonderful mood of, how to surrender. So enjoying his, what do you call, engaging his body and senses and everything in serving the Lord. And that is the only way to increase our attachment to Lord. That was a wonderful, Prabhupada's forward was so wonderful to say. It was attachment to Lord, how to gain attachment. You brought that point very well. You talked about we have to engage all our senses and direct it towards serving the Lord, which is very nice because generally we think of using it for our own, how to stop engaging. So here Prabhupada wonderfully says, engage it for the serving of so-and-so. And also you brought a very important aspect in from the Chanakya Niti, who talked about three things we should be satisfied with: food, wealth, and spouse. And the three things we should never be satisfied with was charity, spiritual engagement, and japa, which is very, very important. So, and very nicely concluded to say advancement to Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. I was just taking to the preface in NOI. It was amazing, Prabhu. Thank you so much for actually, weaving all this together. Thank you so much. Thank you for your association. I have just opened the line, so devotees, I request you to share your reflection or ask any questions, please. Hare Krishna.
Shri Balaji Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you very much for your very nice illustrations, Prabhuji. And I also thank Ravilochan Prabhu for summarizing wonderfully. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. It reminds me of Srila Prabhupada telling, I see many moons in our temple, day after day, from the time of, I think, Paurnami, I'm saying, one after the other, all of you are, the way you are speaking and giving them the knowledge to us. I'm ever grateful to all of you. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. Because
in fact, Mataji, when I came to Bangalore, where I used to stay earlier, I had Dayana Balde Prabhu, who used to stay near our place, and we used to attend, and there were many other devotees, Vishwapati Prabhu, Kalchak Prabhu, all these wonderful gems that we had. They have helped me, put some baby steps in this particular in this devotional path, and they were all instrumental. Mataji. I remember Prabhu. I remember we used to go to his house, and on one of his floor we used to sit and read. I used to hear Bhagavatam from them. Mataji. So I'm really grateful to all those wonderful devotees here.
And Prabhu, in fact, what you said, all is because of the attitude of the follower. That's what is helping. So you have the right attitude. It's very important. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you, Mataji, for actually bringing that point. Very nice. Thank you. Any other comments or questions, Prabhu?
Mataji has put some coming, Prabhu. Premapriya Radhika Mataji. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the wonderful class and how we need to engage all our senses in serving the Lord Krishna with the example of Maharaj Amrish.
Yes, Master. Thank you so much.
I think we can end.
Sure, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Thank you for the wonderful class and your association. Thank you. In fact, thank you, devotees, for actually joining today. It was very nice to have so many association of devotees. So we just end the session with the Vaishnav Pranam, Prabhuji.
वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च आसिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः अनन्तकोटि वैष्णववृन्द की जय वैष्णव की जय
Jai Gaur Sita Premanande. Hari Hari Bo. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Tomorrow we'll have the class from the temple starting